one day before Nancy Guthrie sits down for her last known dinner, the DOJ releases the largest single dump of documents in the history of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Over 3.5 million pages, more than 2,000 videos, approximately 180,000 images, and then a little over 24 hours later, a woman named Nancy Guthrie vanishes in a way that nobody has ever seen before in any similar case. This is not an elderly woman that is suffering from dementia that wandered outside. Her doorbell camera was forcibly ripped off the front door. There were blood droplets left on her front porch. The mainstream media news outlets keep saying that it must be the work of an amateur, and yet we're a month and a half in and nobody has seen Nancy Guthrie. There were ransom notes sent to major media publications, and the timing starts becoming the main focus here. The largest dump of Epstein files to date drops, and then a journalist's mother just vanishes. The internet starts connecting the dots. We don't know if there are even dots to connect or the connections are worthy of anything, but it is interesting to note. Some people on Reddit have just quietly wondered, it's a weird feeling that they get about this Guthrie case. They see it all over mainstream media, and all these news networks are saying this is the case that the world is captivated by, that the entire nation cannot look away from. Everybody is overly invested in this case. And normally when major news networks say something like that, it's partly because it's true. But a lot of people say on Reddit, I don't know anyone that's personally been following the case. Everybody's heard of it because it's just like shoved in our faces by every major news publication, but nobody's really following it. Nobody's really overly invested. They're not trying to be internet sleuths. A lot of people say, I have friends who are very into active true crime cases, and they're not really following the Nancy Guthrie case. These are people on Reddit. So they're wondering, are we just meant to believe that this is the only thing that Americans are thinking about, interested in, talking about? Or is it something deeper? Some netizens think so. September 20th, 2019, a Dateline special that has since been described as being historic goes live. It is Virginia Giuffre's very first ever televised interview. She's filed court documents, she's given depositions. She has never gone on camera before to talk about what happened to her by Epstein. She's sitting in front of an NBC journalist sharing her story, and this is the first time that she's publicly stating that she was even trafficked to a prince. This is the interview that causes Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, to give his own disastrous interview to the BBC where he just like digs his own grave and he says, I don't even know how to sweat. I have a condition where I can no longer sweat.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. It was almost impossible for me to sweat.
But it's not just Virginia Giuffre. There are 6 survivors in total that tell NBC journalists what happened to them, including Shantae Davies. She's been pictured with Bill Clinton. She was giving him a back massage, neck massage in the airport.
Wow. Oh, okay.
They all open up to NBC journalist Savannah Guthrie about what Epstein did to them. This was essentially the first time Epstein survivors were given a national platform so that the world could finally listen.
They failed us before. Don't fail us again.
Exactly.
That's all we're asking. Take us serious. We matter.
Savannah Guthrie conducted the very first exclusive televised interviews with Virginia Giuffre and other Epstein survivors. And it's clear that even the FBI was made aware of it. So they have internal emails between multiple different departments within the FBI and other federal organizations where they're just trying to give each other heads up on any major publications. Because the idea being there might be questions for comment. Someone's going to see it, a journalist is going to ask you, they're going to email you. You should at least know that this was produced and released on air. The internal email reads, quote, I just wanted to give you a heads up. She's done another interview with Savannah Guthrie. In it, she says the following. 1, she was interviewed by the FBI in 2011. In the interview, she gave the names of all the girls she helped to traffic. 2, she was also interviewed by SDNY. 3, 2 other women also tell DOJ that Epstein specifically trafficked them to other men. 4, there are cameras in the New York City house and others where he could watch people in bathrooms and elsewhere. They plan to air it on, quote, today and this Friday's, quote, Dateline. Hope that's helpful. These emails are not they're just a matter of routine. There's no sinister language. They're not incriminating. Nothing in the emails would suggest that the FBI is like, we can't let this air. We got to shut Savannah Guthrie up. Like, there's nothing like that. It's just nothing is being monitored, even in an abnormal way. But the emails do exist. Netizens have further dug up more connections. Michael Feldman, Savannah Guthrie's husband, was the Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs for Al Gore. Al Gore was Bill Clinton's vice president.
Wow.
Michael Feldman has since gone on to create a communications public affairs firm. A lot of people call it like a crisis situation firm, along with other key members from the Clinton administration. Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard that has been heavily featured in the Epstein files, he recommends Epstein to talk to someone with that specific PR firm because they've helped Bill Clinton and others very high-powered people. There's no indication that Epstein did in fact reach out to Michael Feldman nor his firm, but these are all there in the files. These are all innocuous connections, but the proximity to the Clinton world, to the Epstein victims, Savannah Guthrie, it's just kind of set conspiracy theorist chairs on fire. And then there's the journalist and the president connection. Savannah Guthrie hosted a town hall with Trump in October of 2020, and Savannah Guthrie goes viral multiple times for her very tough interviewing. She even pressed Trump about him sharing conspiracy theories online, stating,
I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves. I don't take a position.
You're not like someone's crazy uncle who can just retweet whatever.
That was a retweet.
A few days later at a rally, Trump stated that Savannah Guthrie was acting like a crazed lunatic.
It's a nice, pleasurable evening. I have somebody going totally crazy last night.
But in a separate rally, he told her that she did a good job.
And I said goodbye. I said, great job, Savannah. You did wonderfully. Good job.
This is a case where you can argue it's just a small world. All these people run in the same circles. Of course you have a journalist rubbing shoulders with politicians. Of course you have all of these different connections. That makes sense. Or you could argue that there's something way deeper going on. With one social media user saying, so you're telling me that an 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped as soon as the Epstein files were released? Meanwhile, her daughter did a huge interview with Epstein survivors? Another comment reads, Nancy Guthrie was probably kidnapped because her daughter was going to start interviewing Trump and other Epstein victims again. Another comment reads, it's weird that no one in mainstream media, none of these news outlets that are heavily covering Nancy Guthrie's case, I mean, it's going under the radar that NBC's Savannah Guthrie conducted the first televised interview with Virginia Giuffre and other Epstein victims. That's not being included in any of these articles?
Oh, you're saying other people are not making that Epstein connection.
Yeah, because, I mean, these mainstream news stations, they've been making all sorts of connections. They're like, the cartels could have taken her. Here we spend 30 minutes interviewing a cartel specialist to give their expert opinion. They're making some connections I've never seen made before, where I'm like, I don't even know.
Right. But no mention of Epstein.
None when I was researching Nancy Guthrie, except mainly on social media.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if they do mention some sort of connection, it's all in the lens of new online conspiracy theory, and it lists like a bunch of conspiracy theories. And I'm not saying that this is a connection that needs to be looked into. I'm just saying it's kind of odd. They've been making connections. It's one thing if they made zero connections with the Nancy Guthrie case, but they're like, here, let's talk to this cartel expert. Here's this cactus expert. It's so many connections, and yet this one is just not something you want to talk about. But I will say other people have started arguing back. Zach Peter is a social media commentator. I'm not entirely sure what he does, but he did comment, and this has kind of gone semi-viral.
Trump does not have Nancy Guthrie in a bunker. And if he was going to snatch up somebody's grandma, he would take like the Kardashian grandma. He would take MJ. He would take Kris Jenner's mother. He wouldn't take Savannah Guthrie's mother, who nobody even heard her, from Tucson, Arizona.
What is he arguing exactly? Like, he's saying if this is a distraction?
Yeah, they would take someone more high profile, like a Kardashian's grandma.
But they don't have that direct connection. Okay.
And then some people are saying, well, maybe it's not just a distraction. Maybe it's a threat to Savannah Guthrie. And it's opened a lot of doors for further conversations. But is this connection just coincidental? Is it something deeper? Or is this all, even this conversation itself, just a way to distract from the new Epstein file? We're also going to link the change.org petition by various survivors of Jeffrey Epstein calling on the president and the US government for the full transparent release of all the Epstein, Maxwell, zero redaction in favor of abusers, enablers, or accomplices, federal and state protection for survivors facing threats and harassment. There is a lot that they're asking the government for, and a lot meaning like you should go and read exactly what they want so that we can be on the same side. But they're not asking for much. Like, this is the least the government should be able to do. There are quite a few disclaimers for today's episode, including grooming, exploitation, trafficking, total deprivation of human liberties, sexual violence of minors and young adults. That this episode may be extremely distressing, particularly regarding specific descriptions and direct quotes from survivors' diaries about abuse that has been experienced. Statements and quotes may be condensed for brevity, and I just want to say, appearing in the Epstein files is not an indication of wrongdoing. In fact, most people who have appeared in the files have avidly, passionately denied any wrongdoing. Netizens, however, may feel that someone seems guilty and appears guilty, and if they're in the files quite a number of times, that could implicate, in their personal opinion, a sense of higher guilt, but that doesn't mean that they are. Pretty much every single person in the files has denied any guilt. So who are the guilty parties? At this point, maybe it's everyone not in the files. Is that what we are to assume? So with that being said, let's get started. For how much we knew about Jeffrey Epstein, the world really never sees this man talk. We have a few clips of a previous deposition where Jeffrey Epstein is sitting there looking smug, but we don't hear him talk for a long time.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Even when reading thousands upon thousands of emails, you don't even necessarily have his voice reading it out loud in your head. You know when you hear someone's voice multiple times and then you read something that they allegedly wrote, it's very clear. You can hear them. I did not hear that with Epstein. But in the recent Epstein file dump, there is an Epstein interview. Unreleased. It's a 2-hour video. Him sitting, facing the camera, answering questions about his crimes. It's not an interrogation. It's not even a deposition. It is an interview with Steve Bannon. Okay, this episode, if I were to give you the context of every single person and every single thing and how they're connected to Epstein, it would take 25 years. I just want to say we have 2 separate collections of videos. One that was done years ago on the Epstein case, giving you a general overview, and then one that was done more recently with all of the Epstein drops, with Steve Bannon heavily included. And then if you haven't seen the Nancy Guthrie video, you should go watch that one previously. But he's sitting down with Steve Bannon, and this is an Epstein legacy project. The first thing you hear is stage direction. Steve Bannon is off camera, and you hear his voice guiding Epstein.
Remember, when you're answering on these questions, I'm not in the shot, and they're never going to hear my voice.
Basically telling him, repeat the question in your answer.
Wait, what is that? Like a documentary they're making?
Yes. Steve Bannon says it's going to be released. And this is...
Wait. Steve Bannon saying Epstein documentary is still coming today?
Yes.
Oh?
I know. Yeah. And this is just 2 hours of a 15-hour file that he has.
He said, just you wait.
Yeah. But this 2 hours doesn't make Steve Bannon look good. So everyone's like, I don't know if I want to watch your documentary. You're weird.
Is this filmed after all the allegations started, or this is old tape?
This is like a few months before he dies, before he's arrested the second time in 2019.
This is like the peak of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
This is like way after 2008.
Okay.
So he's telling Epstein, and Epstein is just like, oh, okay. And just like that, just unceremoniously, the interview begins. It's clear the footage is going to be part of the documentary, and Epstein is heavily going to be involved. It looks like some sort of PR piece for Epstein to make a comeback into the world after being a convicted child predator. But it's before the color grading and the edits. Steve Bannon, of course, has saying up and down that anything you see in this video is not really a good representation of his relationship with Epstein, because of course he's being nice to Epstein because he's trying to build rapport and build his trust so he can make an explosive documentary on him. That's Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is a high-powered political advisor that has probably worked with he worked very closely with Trump. He did go to jail for the January 6th insurrection. That was like a whole thing. He was trying to be a martyr afterwards. It was just bizarre. Like, this man is very, very bizarre. And then he's like besties with Epstein.
But he's not like a film director or anything. This is not his line of work.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So
yeah, not that I know of. There was actually a documentary made on him. But I mean, if he is, not a good one because we've never heard of him.
Interesting. Yes.
I honestly don't know what it is he actually does at all. I mean, he's got lots of cool titles on his resume, I'm sure, but I don't know what this man is about. I don't know what this is. And okay, if you watch the interview, which I'm going to include clips of in this video podcast, the last thing on your mind is what Steve Bannon is getting out of this. It is what Jeffrey Epstein is getting out of this, because this interview does not feel like a man being exposed. It feels like a man auditioning. For what role? I don't know, the devil himself? Steve Bannon even asks Epstein about the devil. But first, the interview. Steve Bannon brings up the 2008 financial crisis, because what would be a more thought-provoking way to interrogate Epstein's financial prowess than get his commentary on one of the most devastating economic crashes in modern US history? Epstein tells Steve Bannon that it's not what he thinks. Because in 2008, when the financial market crashed, Epstein was sitting in an 8x10 jail cell, stuffing his face full of almond joys because he was terrified the jail food was being poisoned and he was going to die.
Did you eat almond joy bars and things like that because you're afraid of what the cooks did to your food?
Yes.
Which, side note, does that sound like someone who would, in a few months, would self-exit in jail?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said that he only ate almond joys because he thought someone was going to poison his jail food. And he's saying this a few months before he self-exits in jail. I'm just saying it doesn't sound like someone who has the tendency to feel...
Yeah, he's like paranoid about someone killing him.
He's sitting in solitary confinement, and Steve Bannon, he does not look disappointed. He's giddy. Oh, this is going to be so amazing. That's going to be so amazing. He has Epstein reintroduce it so they can take out Steve Bannon's voice later. He's like, say it again. Tell me again. Start from the beginning. Steve Bannon is delighted. Financial mastermind in a cage, unable to save the world during the greatest financial catastrophe in a generation. That's the image in Steve Bannon's mind. And it gets better for Bannon. Epstein tells him, because they don't have the Wall Street Journal in jail, how he found out about the crash was he had a guard come up to his cell, and the guard was like, "Psst, I'm really worried about my pension. What do I do?" Epstein's like, "Why are you worried about your pension? You don't know? Everything's crashing. The banks are coming down."
I'd been there since June, in an 8x10 cell. Now, since I was in jail, there were no books. Why? There's no library. No library, but you're in jail. No, I was in jail, not prison. So in jail, I was in a place what's called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people. They had put me there, they said, for my own protection. One of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they were afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy.
What?
Steve Bannon asks, did it strike you at the time how all the threads of your life had come together and put you in a position, or you had put yourself in a position, in that position?
No, that would be probably means I would be too self-aware.
You can't possibly expect me to believe this.
I know. I don't believe it.
I don't know why they're acting like Epstein went to war, like he was in the depths of ADX Florence Supermax, which he should have been. But no, he was on a work release program. He wasn't even really in solitary confinement. He could leave jail every day in 2008 to go to work, where he abused more victims during his work release because his work is being a trafficker.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that was his 2008 whole thing. He was on a work release program.
He was out and about?
Yeah, he was out and about for most of the time.
So how does he not know what's going on in the economy?
I think these are all lies. I think anything that comes out of Epstein's mouth is a bold-faced lie. And Steve Bannon is the world's worst fact checker. How can you not even be a good fact checker when he's your supposed friend?
That's insane. Okay.
Steve Bannon acts like the 2008 financial crisis would not have happened as long as child trafficker Jeffrey Epstein wasn't in jail in Florida. He says, quote, "You never had a moment where you sat there and go,
what the fuck have I done with my life that I'm in a 6x9 jail cell when I should be on a trading desk, or I should be in my $250 million greatest townhouse in New York City taking calls from the King of Saudi Arabia, the President of China, the head of Russia, the President of the United States, to save the world's population from a financial debacle. You honestly expect me to believe that never happened?
What the fuck is that statement?
I don't know. And Epstein is just like, I would just say how strange, that this happened. It's strange. I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Brown.
Brown jumpsuit.
Yes.
Steve Bannon notes with a inquisitive and slightly somber tone in his voice.
I notice I don't see you in a lot of brown.
No.
I don't know what the we're doing here, honestly, okay? This whole documentary feels like it's just to clean up Epstein's image after his 2008 arrest. And it feels as if it's just to position Epstein as some financial guru that the world desperately needs. But fine, like, you want to play Mr. Market, you want to be Mr. Wall Street, tell us how to fix the financial crisis. Epstein does in this interview. And let's see if he says anything of value. We should be able to take this information, walk to JP Morgan and get a job. Epstein comments about the financial crash of 2008.
You can't think about it like your car. People in normal walks of life think about money and things as a machine. And unfortunately, so if your car breaks, cars are always easy to fix. My jets, my cars, if it breaks, I know it can be fixed because it simply follows the same pattern. If this part breaks, you replace the part and the thing works again. People and the financial system are not machines. They can't be fixed the same way. You can't simply take out put some more juice into the commercial paper market, and that's like replacing the carburetor on the car. It's much more, I have a patient who can't breathe, has a stomach problem, can't see, looks bleeding at the same time. What do I do first? I have to think about it as a system. Where's the most logical place? What's the most dangerous place? If your heart stopped, we have to start your heart again. In the equivalent to the money market, why do I have to start your heart again? I need to get your blood flowing. If your blood stops, you're dead. If liquidity, which is the equivalent of blood in the financial system, dries up.
Once liquidity is basically cash, putting cash into the
system. Forget about what it is.
Okay.
Okay. Liquidity is liquidity. It's the blood of the economy. You need to pump blood hard into the body of the economy to keep it. There's no information on how the market actually works. There's no real information on how Epstein even acquired wealth to begin with. But Steve Bannon maybe got hit on the head with a coconut from a coconut tree. He asks Epstein, just off the top of your head, can you list any guys who know the financial market better than you do? You know, like, hate him or love him, Jamie Dimon, the head of BlackRock, anybody?
There must be.
But it doesn't come to the top of the head.
No.
Okay, fine.
But here's the catch. The only reason that Epstein was able to become so wealthy and become so interconnected with heads of states and billionaires and tech founders, it's not because of the trafficking or the island or Lolita Express. It's because everyone else in the room is dumb. That's what he's trying to say. This is like quintessential two bros in a podcast. He's like trying to explain, let me show you what I know that even the president doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And that's why the president wants to hang out with me.
Bannon Bank, I give you $1. Just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much could you lend out to your friends? Your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father who worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. Next question.
He also says he's not impressed meeting world leaders because, quote,
no, I'm not wowed by people of position. I'm wowed by people of great ideas.
Whatever Epstein is doing in this interview, self-reflection is not part of the plan. What is part of the plan does become clear later. It's clear that Epstein wants the world to see him as mostly harmless. A mind ahead of his time. Maybe he's too eccentric to be bound by the dimensions of human laws, courtesy of Nicole Daedone. Steve Bannon asks Epstein, what are you, a class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm
the lowest?
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest.
Jeffrey Epstein is wrong, or he's lying. I opt for the latter. New York's Offender Registration Act classifies Tier 1 as the lowest risk, which is technically what he says, but Epstein was classified as level 3 sex offender in the state of New York, which is the highest, most dangerous tier. In fact, something totally bizarre happened. A Manhattan prosecutor asked the judge to bump Epstein down from tier 3 to tier 1 because his crimes were committed all the way in Florida. This is ADA Jennifer Gaffney, by the way, who was the deputy chief of crimes in the Manhattan DA's office. Even the judge was confused. The judge was alarmed, flabbergasted. Did the prosecutor suffer a major brain injury on the way to work? They state in open court, the judge does. I have never seen the prosecutor's office do anything like this.
To help them.
Yeah, I have done so many cases, much less troubling than this one, where prosecutors would never make a downward argument like this. I don't think you did much of an investigation here. I'm quite frankly shocked.
That is so sus.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking crazy.
Exactly. The judge denied the request, and Jeffrey Epstein remained a Tier 3 offender in the state of New York, which is neither a Tier 1 offender, nor is it the lowest risk offender. But Steve Bannon is not a fact checker. He lets Epstein right off into the sunset, trying to present himself as a mostly harmless child sex trafficker. Epstein says that while former world leaders like Bill Clinton have long biographies, he just thinks of himself as
Jeffrey Epstein, just a good kid.
There's also just some random bizarre moments from the interview, if you will. Bannon asks him if he considers himself a stoic, to which he responds, "No, I consider myself a hermit. Stoics are not very happy." At one point, his phone rings and the producers tell him to turn the sound off and then flip the phone face down. Steve Bannon comments, "Yeah, because who knows what the comes up on that phone."
Yeah, who knows what the comes up on that phone.
That's correct.
Then they're later talking about how funny something is, and Steve Bannon says, "Is there anything funnier than that? It's black humor." I think he means dark humor, but he's Steve Bannon, so I don't know. I hate him. Whatever. I don't think that he thinks much, but Epstein comments, "I don't make any black comments." That's right. You're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
No.
For black humor, it's
I don't make any black comments. Sorry.
That's right. You're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
Yes.
And then, kind of unprompted, Jeffrey Epstein hits everyone with a...
There's this argument that I reject that black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true. We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment. So it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, but there's many differences amongst different types of people. And so people have different intelligences and they excel in some intelligences usually and less so in others.
It's freaking crazy.
Which is a very roundabout way to be racist. He says that kids also shouldn't necessarily be taught how to write because writing forces linear and narrow patterns of thinking. You have to write in a certain form, in a certain way, in a certain linear pattern, is what he says. Which maybe, I guess, explains his psychosis-inducing grammar in his emails. Steve Bannon says to Epstein that there is something deeply fucked up with you.
There's something deeply fucked up with you.
At least something.
And netizens have commented on this interview that Steve Bannon somehow manages to be the most annoying person in the room, where the only other person in the room is Jeffrey Epstein. Other comments read, "Plot twist, this video was recorded this week and not before he dies." Another one is commenting, "Had this playing in the background while I was working and I'm pretty sure now I have brain damage." But Steve Bannon, he continues. He asks Jeffrey Epstein, "Let's go back to human life."
So you see, this is the question. You're asking me to measure something again. It's the disease.
It can't be measured. You just hate making commitments.
That's why I'm not married.
I'm peeling this onion back a layer at a time. All your bullshit and happy target can't be measured like that. Is that to say measure it's a commitment. You don't even like a commitment when you answer a question.
I don't
As
know.
they say in golf, commit to the shot.
I don't know what it means to be measured.
Epstein talks about how Schrodinger was trying to figure out the difference between things that are alive and things that are dead. He says,
The answer is no. The things that are alive in my world are miracles. Not magic. Magic has a bad connotation, trying to hide things.
You don't believe in the spirit or the soul? That's what animates people, is your spirit or your soul. That's
No.
Have you ever seen someone die? When they die, their spirit leaves.
Their soul leaves, no question. So
There's no question to you about
no
that.
question. Even
Because
during
people would normally think you were soulless. So
Thank you.
Describe for me what you mean by that. What do you mean by soul? What do you mean soul different than the physical analog body that we're seeing on film right now?
it's difficult to describe in words. I mean, I'm not a poet. Poems get a little closer to what that really means. But even the concept of what is life becomes complicated when you deal with plants and seeds. Is a seed alive? I don't know. Certain people would say, no, it's dead. When your banana, one of my favorite examples is the banana that's sitting on the countertop in your kitchen today. Is it alive or dead? Your banana is alive. That banana is breathing. It's on your... You say, that's impossible, Jeffrey. No, it's not.
Is the banana conscious?
All these are words. So everyone's trying to fit a very complicated concepts into a very small box called conscious or alive. These don't fit in that way. So if you put your banana in a bag and put another fruit in with it, the fruit ripens faster because the banana breathes with it. We don't understand most of those things.
What do you think human life is?
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And when I say miracle, I can't explain it, and I make no attempt to explain it at the moment. We don't know how to think about it.
He also reflects on how little science knows about romance. He says, quote,
I don't know why I'm attracted to somebody. I don't know. People are attracted to each other, and everyone has the same feeling. They've seen someone walk in the room, and they say, oh, that person gives me a creepy feeling.
He's talking that?
Yeah.
Science doesn't describe what creepy feelings means. They just know it's a creepy feeling.
He also rambles about how women have intuitive sense.
Women have an intuitive sense. What is intuitive? They have intuition, they have feelings, and they're able to deal in the realm of things that men, especially men like myself, find unexplainable. Women have intuition, men see things a bit differently. Men want to measure everything. Women are not really that interested in measuring.
He literally just did not want to measure anything. Okay. Women are not interested in measuring. But the interview ends where it was always going to go. Steve Bannon asks if it's okay. Epstein, a predator, is out here being a philanthropist. Epstein argues that his philanthropy has nothing to do with his character.
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact...
Why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
But you earned it...
I earned it legally.
We went back to this before. You earned
Yes.
it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right, that do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
Ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people with their money.
Steve Bannon asks if, let's say people knew that the money for free vaccines was coming from a sexual predator. What percentage does Epstein think that they would still want the money?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them,
if I told them the devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life. Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Steve Bannon, almost in a way to not anger Epstein, explains that the devil is brilliant. Quote, have you read Milton's Paradise Lost? Satan was the #1 archangel. He led the rebellion because he couldn't be the top guy. I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. Epstein just stares at him in response, no, the devil scares me.
No, the devil scares me. I saw that in a movie once called American Dharma. I don't remember who said it.
American Dharma is a documentary about Steve Bannon.
What?
And Steve Bannon loves Milton's Paradise Lost, and that's why there's a lot of quotes from that book in American Dharma. But the fact that Epstein is quoting Bannon's own favorite quote back to him, stating he saw it in a documentary about Bannon, but claiming he doesn't remember where he heard it, and doesn't mention that this documentary is about Bannon, it's very strange. Some people have taken it as almost like a threat to Bannon. Or is he acting coy, or what's happening? But still, the biggest lingering question is, if Epstein is scared of the devil, then who the hell could be the devil? From Radio Silence directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette of Scream and Abigail fame, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come picks up exactly where the first film left off. Our heroine Grace, battle-worn and drenched in blood, stumbles out of the carnage thinking she's finally free. She's not. Surviving has made her the target of a mysterious cabal of eccentric, power-hungry, lethal billionaire families. When her estranged sister is pulled into their trap, the two must fight the High Council for the seat that controls the world. Double or nothing. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is only in theaters March 20th. It's announced early into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance that the authorities are going to use a signal sniffer to see if they can find her. Signal sniffers it's something created by a man named David Kennedy. It can pick up very, very, very low Bluetooth signals. So you attach it to a drone, you send it off into the fields, and if you have anything that can have a Bluetooth signal, it can find it. Such as a pacemaker inside of Nancy's body would have a low frequency Bluetooth signal. And with this announcement, Trump gets involved again. I mean, you have to remember, this is like a month leading up to basically the US and Israel starting what I would call a war in Iran. And yet there is a lot of time and energy to comment on this specific news. Not on Nancy Guthrie being missing, which Trump has done, but the fact that they're even going to be using a signal sniffer to try and look for her. Trump states that he does not like this public revelation that signal sniffers are going to be used in the Nancy Guthrie case, stating, quote,
I didn't like when they were talking about the going after the pacemaker and before they even started going after it, they're coming and reporting it. So if in fact they could do it that way, the person would say, well, I'm not going to let that happen, right? So bad things would happen if he's not going to let that happen.
Basically a roundabout way of saying, what's the best way to turn off a pacemaker? But the president commenting on a case, wouldn't that just draw more attention to it? Trump has been personally getting involved along with the FBI director Kash Patel, and pretty much every single mainstream media news outlet was reporting on Nancy Guthrie's case. Many experts have stated that this public attention on the case, yes, it keeps it on the headlines. Yes, it keeps more people attuned to seeing if they can spot Nancy Guthrie somewhere and if they can spot the suspects in the Ring doorbell footage somewhere. But if this really is a ransom kidnapping case, the public attention can actually end up harming the case in a lot of ways, especially when the President of the United States, the FBI director are getting involved. But there were less eyebrows being raised with Kash Patel's overt involvement in Nancy Guthrie's case. A lot of people think it's very normal for Kash Patel to get involved because he is the director of the FBI, but I would like to say that I disagree, because when I was going through Kash Patel's very frequent posting on Twitter and social media platforms, he seems to have a tendency, and this is not like a factual observation, this is an anecdotal thing that I've experienced researching, is that he gets involved in all of the political crimes. You have people south of the border smuggling in drugs. He's going to be posting about it on X when they catch the criminals, right? Because that's part of the narrative of like, we want all the illegals out.
Yeah.
He actually got in quite a bit of trouble between many politicians for being too involved early on in releasing information that was likely inaccurate about the Charlie Kirk shooting that happened. So all of these are heavily political topics.
Yeah.
Nancy Guthrie is not political, but he's getting heavily involved. So it's very strange. I mean, the timing is odd. So what would incentivize Kash Patel to get so invested and involved if it's not the Epstein files? I mean, why this case and not any other case? What's happening in that time period? January 22nd, 2026. So this is like a week before Nancy Guthrie goes missing, and it's been gaining traction since. A New York Times expose goes live detailing what the FBI has been like since Kash Patel took over. They were able to interview 45 bureau employees, former and current, and the feeling is, this is hell. Hell is here. We're living in hell. That's the feeling of the article, the expose. The expose examines how Kash Patel was a former public defender who never worked for the FBI a day in his life and actually was quite the conspiracy theorist, evidenced by his many, way too many, far too many appearances on podcast. Kash Patel said that he wants to shut down the Bureau headquarters and reopen it as a museum of the deep state. That's what he stated before he became the director.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
He didn't do that, but he does indeed go get rid of the Bureau's top 6 executives, likely due to their connections and work prosecuting Trump.
Interesting.
The sentiment being is, if you were assigned to the January 6th investigation, because you don't get to pick cases in the Bureau. Like, these are agents that get assigned a case. A lot of agents said the sentiment inside the Bureau was that once Kash Patel took over, if you even touch the January 6th case, you might get fired just because you worked on that case. There were a lot of just bozo moments exposed in the article. One field office leader stated that they were shocked by Kash Patel's brain, stating, quote, Patel had his first director's call with the heads of all the field offices. He had no agenda, no organized thoughts, no strategy or leadership philosophy or priorities to share. I specifically remember him stating at one point, I don't read. He explained he doesn't read briefing materials. He apparently doesn't do calls either. So one agent states that typically there is a weekly meeting with all the leaders of the field offices on Wednesdays with the director of the FBI. But he stopped doing that. So things just kept getting dropped and missed. And because everyone's supposed to have their own individual calls with the director, but like that's a lot of things were not good. And this is an opinion, of course, but I think a Driscoll sweetest batch blueberry has a stronger work ethic than Kash Patel. Agents remember how he had to go to the Five Eyes conference, which is the intelligence alliance between the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And quote, before the conference, his staff says he's unhappy because he doesn't like meetings in office settings. What he wants is social events. He wants premier soccer games. He wants to go jet skiing. He'd like a helicopter tour. Everyone who'd heard about this was like, hold on, is he really going to ask MI5, the director of MI5, to go jet skiing instead of going to a meeting? This is a job, guys. His staff only cared about 3 things: what his meals were, when his workouts would be, and what his entertainment would be.
Who exactly is saying this? One of a former employee?
Or current.
What is happening?
Yeah. Also, side note, for someone who has dedicated teams to meals and workouts, he does not have a physique that reflects that much, but I digress, okay? They continue. The biggest plan is how he's gonna get his girlfriend in there so she can go to the Windsor Castle. He's got his assistant, just like a true executive concierge, and when she's not getting the food or the workout she wants, she'll just start screaming at people, make it happen!
The girlfriend?
No, the assistant. But he wants his girlfriend to go everywhere, which that was a whole thing. So Kash Patel is constantly under fire for using the FBI jet and taxpayer dollar to go fly to his girlfriend's concert. She's like a country singer that nobody listens to. What? I mean, some people listen to her. Nobody listens to her. Okay. He would fly, and then they would fly from one city to another back to her home in Nashville. And apparently the FBI office in Nashville where she lives is just like private security for her these days.
Right.
They can't even get any work done.
Wow.
It's the allegation, it's the sentiment.
This nonsense about, oh, you're taking a private jet. We're taking the FBI plane because Congress 20 years ago said FBI directors are not allowed to take commercial air travel, ever. Kind of expected some scrutiny, so we took additional steps to say, how can the FBI save money for travel when it's on personal matters? And so I mandated Bureau require us to use government airfields.
How long has he been in this position?
I think it's been a year. Yeah. And then apparently during the Five Eyes conference, they all go to the castle and they take a picture with the king. Fantastic. Loving life. Great. Now, some of the members of these intelligence agencies overseas, they are not public figures. It's not like the director of the FBI. They're like very secret figures. They're in non-disclosed positions. You can't even file paperwork to see what position they're in. That's the intention. Kash Patel, though, wants to post this picture on social media, apparently, according to this expose. They're all like, hey, so what kitchen cooking herb are you smoking over there? You cannot post this picture. But he apparently goes back and forth, allegedly begging these people, these undisclosed intelligence agency running commands.
Is it like a group photo?
Yes, that he wants to post this picture onto social media.
Because he was taking a picture with the king?
Yeah.
Did he post it?
No. Dan Bongino is the deputy director. Well, former, not anymore, which usually, so a lot of people are saying that with the deputy director of the FBI, it has been long-standing tradition to choose a career agent. So the FBI director is typically well-connected to politicians because that's how they get appointed. But the deputy director, this is the second hand in charge, they've been in the bureau for probably their whole career.
Right.
Because that's what you need. You need someone who knows every rank file, how things work, how things have been done. Not because they're so stuck in tradition, but like they know the ins and outs of the bureau. They choose instead Dan Bongino, who is a right-wing podcaster and a former Secret Service agent. He doesn't even like the bureau. He called it thugs for the Democrat Party. One agent states that there was real concern in the bureau, stating, quote, "We were going to have two people who, it would not be an exaggeration to say they were conspiracy theorists with very little experience in federal law enforcement."
Wow.
I will say the levels in government a male podcaster can get in this administration needs to be studied and then needs to be just like quickly stopped. One of the most notable things that he does once he's assigned, though, is Dan Bongino tries to create a new physical fitness test that is not backed by evidence or research. So he's like, I need all the bureau agents to be fit. He wanted to have equality for men and women in the sense that they would have to do the exact same number of pull-ups, which means a large number of probably more competent, very competent female agents and recruits would be lost. Valuable personnel would be lost because they can't do as many pull-ups as their male counterparts.
That's crazy.
Okay?
Wow.
So one agent stated to Bongino, and apparently, allegedly, Dan Bongino tells them, you can have the best female agent take down the biggest case in our history, but if on one ring door camera video, she's out of shape or overweight, that's going to be the story. The agent comments, he was worried about whether or not they'd look good on doorbell camera. He said it's the way these times are. I think that's the way you are. I don't think anyone else would have thought that. He has since stepped down as the FBI deputy director to go back to his podcast. He's also taken a role in the whole Epstein files, which both of them, before they held positions in the FBI, they kind of hinted on podcasts that they did not believe that Epstein self-exited. But Kash Patel, once he becomes the director, he states like, no, it was a self-exit. It was a self-exit. It's been reported by agents to the expose that there's too much commingling with DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, fuck ICE, formerly run by Christine Noem. She has since been fired, promoted, we don't know. She has a whole new position that was created just for her because the speculation by a lot of people is that if she were straight up fired, she would start singing like a little canary, so.
You know, they were saying about Christine Noem yesterday. I did the Super Bowl interview. Sir, are you going to relieve Christine Noem of her duties? No. Oh.
There's a whole new position. I don't know what that position does, but one agent says they also had to juggle Christine Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who wanted to ride in our tactical vehicle to do her TV stuff. That makes all the operators uneasy and it makes them less safe. A lot of agents also said that the connection between the FBI and DHS was just not good. They say, quote, because FBI agents are posting up with Homeland Security, citizens think we're part of ICE, which disrupts other investigations. It used to be that you could sit in front of a house watching another house, and a lot of the time people were okay with that. They might help you. Now they're scared because they think you're ICE. Because nobody's really scared of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I would say I feel like I would be less scared to help an FBI agent than like even police officers is the sentiment that I'm trying to say. I don't know if there's I don't know if there's any fact to it, but because there's a lot of tension between citizens and police officers, citizens typically have a little more leeway with federal agents because they're not around a lot.
Yeah, I get it. So the FBI agents say ICE, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly, yeah. Which, side note about ICE, they're stalking Reddit threads. Okay, this is like a side note. Ken Klippenstein, he was the one that released Luigi Mangioni's note, manifesto, whatever they wanted to call it, right? But he is like this incredible journalist, but he released an expose about Homeland Security field agents monitoring conversations on Reddit. There was an internal intelligence bulletin that Ken got his hands on where they're talking about Reddit user Budget Chicken 2425, who was posting about federal overreach on Reddit and wanted to gather a protest outside the Border Patrol facility nearby in Texas where he lives. This is not a big call for a rally. This is not a big call for a revolution. The post just innocently reads, in light of today's events, I'm rallying people to support our rights and freedom, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors, family, and community. We need volunteers to be witnesses and spread awareness. The more we are silent, the faster it'll come to us. The Department of Homeland Security bulletin reads, the post generated some engagement on the platform, including supporting comments, logistical concerns, and opposition, underscoring both local sensitivity to perceived immigration enforcement activity and the symbolic value of federal facilities as protest sites. At the time of this assessment, there's no specific reporting indicating plans for violence against DHS personnel or facilities in connection with call to this protest. But the more alarming part is the bulletin goes on and states they did like a digital footprint check of budget taken 2425. Listing that their favorite subreddits are r/Texas, r/movies, r/Stephen King, and I'm old. And even that gets specific, stating in the I'm old subreddit, he likes to reminisce about classic television productions like UBU Productions and Gracie Films. On r/Stephen King, he engages mostly with community posts about book collections.
So they're stalking this online user.
Who is not even, like, it's shocking because, I mean, do they monitor rapists like this online or child offenders who get released that just, quote, slip through the cracks? I didn't think so. So why are you, it's so bizarre. It's so scary.
Yeah.
Also, they're buying warehouses. Look into it. Look into it. DHS went through a whole buying spree where they secretly leased up a bunch of warehouses. There's one, I believe, in Georgia that they're trying to house like 10,000 detainees. So look up your local states, look up your local areas and see if there's like a warehouse that DHS has been secretly looking into buying or has already purchased. A lot of contracts were signed secretly, and they were doing this without much attention for the longest time.
Damn.
All near major cities. A lot of them are in very alarming spots, like next to preschools, church gatherings, like community centers where people will go to be safe. But anyway, back to the FBI. A lot of agents were saying they don't really do any crime solving, crime fighting anymore, or national security anymore. And they said that Pam Bondi, because you remember Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have some going on. So Kash Patel is the FBI director. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General of the United States. She accuses the New York field office of holding back documents in the Epstein case. Everyone's just trying to save their ass. Pam Bondi was like, I got the Epstein files on my desk. And then the administration was like, there's no files. Kash Patel was like, what files? What are we talking about? Pam Bondi is like, you guys are holding files. So it became this whole point your finger. They have beef with each other. Kash Patel then diverts a ton of agents to work on redactions for files. One agent says, a member of the redaction team asked me, because I'm a superior, can I not work on this anymore? They had a team call, and Patel jumped on the call and yelled at everyone, telling them to work faster, that he'd fire everyone who worked on the redactions if he didn't have it when he wanted it. And they were allegedly told to flag references to Trump and other well-known figures, as well as redacting information about victims, which is the only thing they were supposed to do.
Right. Huh.
So don't be confused that this was hard work for American people's rights to know who amongst the rich and powerful are criminals, which at this point, if we are a casino, you would make a killing just assuming everyone is first a bad person, then giving them the benefit of the doubt. The article reports that more than 20% of the FBI's workforce has been assigned to immigration enforcement, which impacts the amount of personnel that can investigate other things like public corruption, white-collar crime, kidnappings.
Wow.
One agent stated, I remember praying that we didn't have a terrorist attack, mass shooting, or a cyber attack slip through the cracks because my agents, who were highly trained to protect against such threats, were assigned to immigration enforcement. Another agent says, I did not go to law school. I did not go to Quantico and work counterterrorism operations overseas to doing traffic control for Arrest a Brown Person Day. So the Bureau is known for using polygraphs to get security clearance, where they ask you questions and, they ask you questions that you would imagine that they ask you. But now they said that the Bureau is doing, this is an allegation, if there is a leak, because there's a lot of leaks in this administration, in all departments. Even I think recently there was a Pentagon leak with how many casualties there were in the Iran situation recently. This leak, if there's leaks in the FBI, allegedly, Kash Patel will have employees polygraphed and they will be asked if they said anything negative about Kash Patel, which feels like very emotional and sensitive. I mean, it's definitely morally and ethically bankrupt if this is occurring, but could you imagine a female director doing something like that? The scathing adjectives she would be called. She would be framed as a soft, whiny baby bitch who wants everyone to love and worship her because she's probably a whore. But instead, Kash Patel, how can you be such a soft, sensitive little person?
Unbelievable.
One agent says, quote, they were polygraphing their own senior leadership team because they were so mad about media leaks. Then soon after the Charlie Kirk shooting, Kash Patel flies to Utah, and the first thing he wants is a raid jacket, FBI raid jacket. They don't have one in his size, which, side note, leadership doesn't wear raid jackets. Okay, so FBI, when they do raids, they wear FBI on their back. But once you're in a leadership position, you wear a suit. You don't wear a raid jacket. But allegedly, Trump told Patel he wants to see the raid jackets everywhere because he wants the feds to take the credit for a lot of things. Is the allegation in the expose. Okay, I don't know. I'm not in these rooms. I don't know any of these conversations. But they don't have a size medium. So in this very crucial moment of, I don't know, solving a crime, whatever, you know, he has the SWAT team take off their patch, like the SWAT patch, so that he can wear just the FBI letters to the press conference, which is just odd. And then here's this long quote after he gets there, quote, "Whenever there's a critical incident, one of the first things that happens is a conference call with everybody, all the executives. Most of the field offices dial in. The director rarely speaks because someone with situational awareness is leading the call because there's an emergency. You got to be there. Like you have to have, you know what's going on. They'll say, here's what happened. Here's what we know. Here's what we need. But we get on and it's just Kash berating the special agent in charge of Salt Lake. He's super emotional. Which, side note, emotional in a leadership position, such as being the director of the FBI, is never good. I don't think they use the word emotional as a way to display his humanity. They continue, then it turns surreal. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino start talking about their Twitter strategy. And Kash is like, I'm going to tweet this. Salt Lake, you tweet that. Dan, you come in with this. And then I'll come back with this. They're literally scripting out social media, not talking about how we're going to respond or resources or the situation. He's screaming that he wants to put stuff out, but nothing's been vetted yet. It's not even accurate. Everyone on the call is just like, this guy is completely out of control. On another call, he said, when a crisis happens, the only thing you need to do is call me. The most important thing in any crisis is controlling the narrative. I was like, no. We actually have to do some work here. Like, we're going to have to investigate. The most alarming message coming from the FBI insiders is that they feel the way that Kash Patel is running the bureau is it's just a weapon of the White House, and the diverting of resources is leaving the country vulnerable to attack, which we now know in this situation, which call it the conflict, call it the war in Iran, that's not good. I will say these are all of the allegations and quotes that you can find on the New York Times expose. However, the FBI spokesperson, Ben Williamson, had said about this expose, this story is a regurgitation of fake narratives, conjecture, and speculation from anonymous sources who are disconnected from reality. They can whine and peddle falsehoods all they want, but it won't change the fact that the FBI under this administration worked with partners at every level and delivered a historic 2025. A White House spokesperson states, President Trump and FBI Director Kash Patel are restoring integrity to the FBI by returning its focus to fighting crime and letting good cops be cops. So, I don't know. You take the expose as you will. Maybe you hate the New York Times. But I will say Kash Patel is a very odd individual, in my opinion, because he also has a children's book, a real children's book that you can purchase where he's a wizard and he saves King Donald Trump from the evil, disgusting, filthy DOJ. The book is called The Plot Against the King, and it's marketed for 5-year-olds and up. I also think it's a trilogy, which, like, goddamn, okay.
What?
I'm still waiting for final installments of trilogies from some of my favorite authors, and here we have this trilogy. But also, the second one does not seem to be sold on Amazon anymore. So I don't know if it's a duology, and he just, like, weirdly named the first one, and then the third one, and skipped number 2. I don't know if 2 is a bad number for him, or the second one is just pulled from the shelves. I don't know. But that still doesn't answer why is Trump getting involved in all of this. So it seems like Kash Patel has better things that he wants people to pay attention to, like the Nancy Guthrie case, versus probably this New York Times expose. But what about Trump? Is he just making a comment since he's worked with Savannah Guthrie previously and has had interactions with her? Is that why he wants to be of assistance? I mean, I guess you could say that. Or you could say that some people think that the idea of a disappearance being the only thing that the country wants to talk about could be a really good opportunity to not talk about other things. January 30th, the DOJ releases the single largest drop of Epstein files, like I've noted, including there's a picture of the former Prince Andrew crouched over a redacted female's body who's laying on the ground. Everybody is clothed, but it's not a great picture. February 1st, Nancy Guthrie disappears from her home. February 2nd, Epstein survivors are rightfully enraged and traumatized because the DOJ, who seems to have spent a ton of manpower to redact the names of high-powered businessmen and billionaires from their files, they have left a ton of documents unredacted that clearly show underage victims' names, personal information, and ways that people can find out where they are now. Even more traumatizing, according to the New York Times, nearly 40 unredacted images that show both nude bodies and the faces of the people portrayed were left unredacted for the public. Quote, the people in the photos appear to be young, although it was unclear whether they were minors. Some of the images seem to show Mr. Epstein's private island, including a beach. Others were taken in bedrooms and other private spaces. While photos of powerful men were mysteriously redacted in some cases for no reason, the lawyers representing the victims state it's kind of unfeasible to think that the DOJ would make mistakes like this. Quote, DOJ cannot plausibly characterize this as an error, negligence, or bureaucratic failure. The task was straightforward. Take the list of known victims and redact those names everywhere they appear. When DOJ believed it was ready to publish, it needed only to type each victim's name into its own search function. Any resulting hit should have been redacted before publication. Had DOJ done that, the harm would have been avoided. Another attorney states, this whole thing is ridiculous. The DOJ was ordered to release information to the public to be transparent about Epstein and Maxwell's criminal enterprise network. Instead, they released the names of courageous victims who had fought hard for decades to remain anonymous and out of the limelight. Whether the disclosures were inadvertent or not, they had one job to do it, and they did not do it. But instead, we're talking about Nancy Guthrie. February 3rd, Trump states that he wants to nationalize voting. Fulton County in Georgia stated that they will be suing the FBI. I think just giving thorough context for this would require like 10 business days. But the administration and the FBI raided and seized a bunch of voting ballots from Fulton County in Georgia from the 2020 presidential election. And Trump comes out to state on Dan Bongino's podcast that he thinks that we should nationalize voting in the United States.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting.
Because constitutionally, U.S. elections are governed by the state. He doesn't want that anymore, which is a huge cause for concern. He's saying it's because the election was stolen, but a lot of people are saying it's much harder to hack 50 systems than hack one system. And during all of this, Trump is interviewed and he says,
speaking of Epstein, I will say there's a reporter named Wolf, and Epstein conspired. This just came out yesterday in the millions of pages of documents, how crazy this is, conspired against me in order to fight like hell to make sure I lose the election. That's the only thing that was mentioned about me. Now, about Democrats, some really bad stuff, but about me, that Wolf, whoever Wolf is, he wrote a couple of books, and Epstein conspired against me. So that takes care of Epstein as far as Trump is concerned, but you got a lot of Democrats out there that are very much involved with Epstein. But I'll be honest with you got to get back to running the country, too.
And then he states that the reporter from CNN needs to smile more. And this is like in the Oval Office with a whole gaggle of press.
What would you say to the survivors who
you are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
You about survivors
you know why you're not smiling? Because you're not telling the truth.
She was asking him about Epstein survivors. So naturally, she was not smiling at the time. And many netizens feel that it's very odd for Trump to want the world to let go of the Epstein files and move on from it when they just release so much information, damning information against various people. So let's get into the latest drop of the files. I will say that this is not an all-encompassing video on the Epstein files because it's literally impossible. The Rotten Mango team is, at the very end of the day, I think we're super, super, super small team compared to any news network or even other podcasts, we're a very small team. I think you'd be shocked to see how intimate the core team is, and intimate being a nice way of saying small and very well caffeinated. I wish I could dedicate everyone to go through files because a lot of people have requested updates on the Epstein files, and we did our best to get through as much as possible. But with all the other cases that people have been requesting to be covered, especially the international ones that are less known about, we've been trying to work on everything at the same time. So this is not going to be like a comprehensive, exhaustive overview of everything that's been released, but I will try to keep giving you updates as we go. February 2026, former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is arrested on his 66th birthday. And after being in custody for 11 hours, I will say that he is released. King Charles has issued a very rare personal statement where he says, in more words, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course," which is a very kind way of saying, like, we're gonna let this happen. Whatever Andrew is gonna go through, he's gonna go through it. It is monumental, but also it can be more monumental because as of right now, he is under investigation, but he has not been charged nor exonerated. So while a lot of people in the UK, they want more and they want it more quickly, everyone in the US feels like if even a former prince can be detained, there can finally be some clarity, there can be some justice. How come it's not happening over here? A week after that, another arrest is made in the UK. Peter Mandelson. He's the former UK ambassador to the US. He was a key advisor for Prime Ministers Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. He's a Labour politician. Peter Mandelson is arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. His name comes up extensively in the files, nearly 6,000 times, and he's very close to Epstein. There's a photo of him in his undies, also found in the files.
Doing what?
Just hanging out. So there's that. So, I mean, you know, he can't say that he had no clue about Epstein's crimes and that he failed to do a quick Google search.
On these photos, where are those photos from? Is someone just there constantly with a digital camera?
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What a lot of people have been doing is a lot of these billionaires, especially in the United States, pretty much anyone, any of the tech founders, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, everybody likes to say, I've never heard of Google. I did not know as a billionaire, I should even Google the company that I keep. It doesn't make sense to anyone because even I meet someone new, I might Google them, especially if I know nothing about them. Mm-hmm. And if they're claiming to be a billionaire, I'm definitely going to Google them.
You're like, saying they never Google Epstein.
After 2008, we never really looked into, we didn't know his past. I just thought he was some rich guy. You're telling me that people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, people who have bunkers are not security clearancing everyone in their path?
Mark Zuckerberg is in there too?
Well, he had a dinner. He was in the files. His name comes up a few times. His spokesperson has stated that it was just a dinner along with other like key investors and tech entrepreneurs. Elon Musk, like you're telling me these people don't Google people? Though Musk has not, I don't think that he said that he didn't Google, he's just been very vague about it. So there were emails where he's asking, like practically begging Epstein to go on the island for the craziest party ever. Like this is crazy because all these other billionaires, they have very roundabout ways of being like, you are such a good friend. Elon Musk is like, I want to go to the island. I want the craziest party of my life. And everyone's like, you're filthy and disgusting. I don't know what's going on. He's come out and his only like statement, I think, is that, hey, so I've been promoting the Epstein files being released, so
he said he's never got invited.
Yeah, basically. But Peter Mandelson cannot say that he never Googled Epstein because he wrote an email to Epstein June of 2008, and this is when Epstein goes to jail on his work release program. Mandelson emails him, I think the world of you. I feel hopeless and furious about what has happened. I can still barely understand it. It just could not happen in Britain. You have to be incredibly resilient, fight for early release, and be philosophical about it as much as you can. The whole thing has been years of torture, and now you have to show the world how big a person you are and how strong. Your friends stay with you and love you. Then in Norway, you have the former Prime Minister of Norway, Jagland. I don't know if the J is pronounced like that there, but Jagland. And according to email correspondence, he arranged family visits to Epstein's residences in Paris, New York, Palm Beach. This is all after Epstein's 2008 conviction. And Jagland had a whole plan to take his entire family to Epstein's island, but it was canceled because Epstein was sick. There are so many people in the files that have come out and they're like, hey, you guys are wrong. I've never been to the island. And then the emails get released and it's always Epstein canceling on them. And they're trying to go to the island.
That's crazy.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Bill Gates and Epstein both went to Jagland, the former Norwegian prime minister's house, to talk about Bill Gates's work in eradicating polio, which, let's be real, Jagland was the chair of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, and allegedly Epstein told someone at the Gates Foundation that he's very friendly with, quote, the Norwegians and could help Gates win the Nobel Peace Prize, according to the Wall Street Journal. However, I will note a Gates spokesperson states Mr. Gates has never been focused on or campaigned for the Nobel Peace Prize or any other prize, which is exactly something someone says when they don't get one. Meanwhile, in the US, there have been a string of resignations, but nothing that really means anything to the victims. Like no meaningful change or impact, just rich people retiring early. Representative Thomas Massey states over 24 people have resigned, CEOs, members of government worldwide. But I haven't seen any arrests or investigations here in the United States from this Justice Department. And it's because a lot of people in positions of power do not think that there is anything to be done here. Kash Patel has basically stated to Congress that Epstein just trafficked girls to himself, that there is no credible evidence that anybody else is guilty. He states that he would have brought the case yesterday if there was any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked victims to anyone but himself.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Also, this is the same person that went on podcasts to doubt that Epstein self-exited. Kash Patel has even stated to a right-wing podcaster in the past before he became the director, you don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And now he says, there's no list. What list? He says of government officials, put on your big boy pants and let us know who these pedophiles are.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
This was before he became the director. And now it's, there's no one to charge. He only trafficked him to himself. That's it. Now, with that being said, we're going to go into the other big names in the US that have come up in the files. And this is not me saying that they are guilty of trafficking, that Epstein trafficked victims to them. The sequence of events in this video just happened in this way that it's right after that segment. But literally, nobody has been charged and convicted of anything related to Epstein that I'm about to talk to you about. Richard Branson of Virgin Airlines, whom just lost his wife, and a lot of people were showing him much love and comfort during that time period. He's in the files. Does that imply guilt? That's not at all what I said, but there is an email from Richard Branson to Epstein that reads, Dear Jeffrey, it was really nice seeing you yesterday. Which, by the way, Richard Branson has an island in the, the Virgin Islands. The boys in water sports can't stop speaking about it. Anytime you're in the area, would love to see you, as long as you bring your harem.
What?
Then 5 bullet points. I think if Bill Gates was willing to say that you've been a brilliant advisor to him, that you slipped up so many years ago by sleeping with a 17-and-a-half-year-old woman and were punished for it, you've more than learned your lesson and have done nothing that's against the law since. And yes, as a single man, you seem to have a penchant for women, but there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, something along those lines. 2, 20th September. Sadly, I'm in the UK that week. 3, I'll copy Peter Norris. Is there a similar transaction you'd recommend today? 4, we definitely should be using all the information we gain worldwide to trade currencies and trade oil. If you find anybody you recommend for us, that would be great, but I'll start looking. Again, I'll copy Peter Norris. The other parts, financially speaking, some people are like, that sounds suspicious. Like, what are you saying? Okay, yeah. But more than that, the whole Bill Gates thing, okay? A spokesperson for Richard Branson has stated that Richard Branson has used the word harem to refer to adult women that he brought along, not underage girls and children. The email is from 2013, so there is publicly available information about Epstein's crimes by this point, and he even notes it in the email. Just writing about one of his crimes, Bill Gates could say this about you, that you slept with a 17-and-a-half-year-old woman. And a lot of netizens feel like the fact that he even said 17 and a half is so disgusting. Like, that tells you what kind of person this is. And these people are fucking old when this is happening. Bill Gates has obviously been heavily in the news for the allegations that he contracted an STI from a Russian woman that he was having an affair with and wanted to get meds for himself and meds to secretly give to his then wife, Melinda Gates. He has denied those allegations. And he's been in the news for...
What do you mean he denied those allegations? Wasn't that email?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to explain it to you. It gets a little complicated, right? And even the emails, a lot of people are hiding behind some emails could display wrong metadata. There's like a whole thing, yeah. the metadata. But overall, Bill Gates has been in the news for just being chummy with Epstein. Bill Gates has since apologized to his staff for having 2 separate affairs with 2 different Russian women whilst being married to Melinda Gates. Quote, I did have affairs, one with a Russian bridge player who met me at bridge events, and one with a Russian nuclear physicist who I met through business activities. He states that Epstein later discovered these affairs, but these affairs do not involve Epstein's victims. And then he says that Epstein basically tried to blackmail him with the information. In one email, Epstein writes to a mutual of Bill Gates and Epstein. He writes that if the affairs go public, quote, Bill risks going from the richest man to the biggest hypocrite. Melinda a laughing stock. Pledges will disappear as a result. Another email is basically Epstein shaming Bill Gates for allegedly being cheap with his mistresses, writing, so he's talking about the mistress, Bill Gates' mistress. I sent her that note. She said she had little money, couldn't afford air conditioner, was living on a friend's couch, really needed money. I sent her some money. Your friend Bill is nuts. His former girl can't afford aircon, cannot afford to travel to bridge tournaments. She said that Sharon Osbourne used to arrange. The lawyer helped her with papers, so she is okay but broke. That story would take Trump off the front pages. The richest man in the world is so cheap. His former bridge girl and toy lives on a friend's sofa. Wow, wow. Who is this email even to?
This is crazy.
Which, by the way, the Russian bridge player, a lot of netizens are like, she's a honeypot for the Russians because she was pictured with an infamous Russian spy. Anyway, we're going to get there in a second. Okay, but who is this email even to? There is so much. This email is to a man named Boris Nikolic, and Boris created Biomatics Capital. But before all of that, his main role was he worked as a scientific advisor for Bill Gates and worked for Bill Gates' private office. Boris is also really close with Epstein, like really, really, really close to Epstein, to the point where he was listed as a backup executor for Epstein's will just days before Epstein died. Apparently, when Boris decided he was going to stop working with Bill Gates and he wanted to start his own company, he wanted Bill Gates to fund his company.
Of course.
Right. But does Bill Gates want to fund his company? Listen, Bill Gates' PR is the most insane shit that I've ever seen in my life. So out of curiosity,
Okay.
I found this book that was written ages ago.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
okay.
And I was listening to this like podcast that was talking about this book on Bill Gates, and I found it really intriguing because I was like, that doesn't sound like the Bill Gates that I always see in the news. It just, they were talking about how Bill Gates was fucking ruthless. When he first started Microsoft, he was brutal. Everybody was scared of him. Like, he had this penchant for being someone that was a nightmare to work with. Like, the things that you hear about people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, like, this is what he was saying about Bill Gates. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting because Bill Gates is all about saving the world these days. The white graying hair. And he always has like a soft demeanor, like very not Jeff Bezos-y, not haha, I'm gonna take over space vibes. What's going on? I try to buy the book. Can't find it anywhere. So I'm like, now I feel like I need to read the book for research purposes because I'm getting freaked out. Why can't I buy it anywhere? And so I ordered it off of eBay.
So this book is written years and decades ago.
Like in the 90s.
Okay.
In the 90s. What they said that Bill Gates never washed his hair. He was known for having dandruff all over his shirts, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I deal with dandruff too, but it paints him in a light that is vastly different from his public image these days.
And the book cannot be found anywhere now, no longer in published.
Yeah, like I couldn't find it at, the local bookstore, but it is from the 90s. Couldn't find it even from like big retailers like Barnes & Noble.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, now I need to read it.
Who wrote it anyways?
He's like a biographer. He has a second book about Bill Gates. I think that book is nicer about Bill Gates because that one you can buy, right? and then Bill Gates released his own book, Source Code, which I also bought because I was like, ooh, the minute I get free time, I'm going to compare all 3 of them because I just want to see, because now I got into, this is like a side quest that I try to go on. But no, it's weird.
Yeah. Wow.
They said that he was just ruthless. But he's like the only one that has good PR. I mean, define good, but like that soft grandpa PR.
Yeah.
Versus like Jeff Bezos, I'm like, I'm definitely scared of you just looking at you. Whereas I feel like Bill Gates, like you look at him and you're like, oh, he looks mostly harmless. Anyway. Something you may or may not know is that for a limited time, my husband and I were able to set up basically a pop-up shop online for my grandfather-in-law's artwork, all thanks to Shopify. A little backstory, Grandpa Mango's art studio was only up for a limited time, but he had spent his entire life painting traditional Chinese artwork and wanting to share it with the world. Thanks to Shopify, we were able to make one of his lifelong dreams come true. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. On the business owner side, their website templates make it so incredibly easy to set up Grandpa Mango's studio. And whenever I'm on the customer side and I'm shopping online ready to check out and I see that purple Shop Pay button from Shopify, it saves me time and trouble. Most of the time my wallet will be across the house. I'm already settled in the bed. So this one-click checkout is amazing when I'm buying last-minute gifts or something that I know is going to sell out if I don't get it right away. Their purple Shop Pay button is why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. I mean, I'm sure there are so many things that I bought because it had the purple Shop Pay button and I was just like, okay, why not? It'll be so easy. And I feel like that's really good for businesses, especially small businesses. See less carts go abandoned and more sales with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/rotten. Go to shopify.com/rotten. That's shopify.com/rotten. Cooking can be a hit or miss in our kitchen, and every time there's a miss, that one aisle in the grocery store with all of those pre-prepared meals, it starts looking like a good idea. When I know it's not, I'll start looking, and I realize the ready-to-bake casserole feeds a family of 6. Meanwhile, it's just me and my husband, or just me sometimes. Suddenly, I'm looking at leftovers of the same thing over and over and again, and I just know it's gonna haunt me for days. Meal prepping has literally never been easier than with Factor. You get single-serve meals per person. Factor helps eliminate stress around cooking, planning, or cleanup. You can find dishes that fit your food preferences. So for example, I'm allergic to pork, so their vegetarian options or pork-free dishes are some of my reliable favorites. But my husband loves eating pork, so this is perfect for us. In addition to their perfect portion size, I love that Factor is so easy to heat up. I no longer have to think about grocery shopping, meal prepping, standing in front of the stove when I'm not in the mood to cook. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ROTTEN50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code ROTTEN50 off at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. So this guy is like, I'm going to leave and I want Bill Gates to fund my company. Now, after having read like 30% of the book that I couldn't find on any of the big retailers, I'm like, Bill Gates ain't going to fund your company. He doesn't care about anybody he works with like that. Epstein is like, I'm going to help you by helping you blackmail Bill Gates.
That's insane.
It ended up semi-working. I don't know if blackmail is the right word to use. Boris says he has nothing to do with what Epstein was planning. Bill Gates invested in his company because they have a good relationship and Bill Gates believes in what he was doing, but it was in the range of like under $100 million was like the vibe. Which, if you say under $100 million, I'm expecting $99 million. I'm not expecting $2 million or a dollar. But side note, Boris has now come out to state again that he has nothing to do with this and that Epstein was doing whatever he wanted to do by himself. But Epstein starts drafting emails that he's likely going to want Boris to send to Bill Gates. So this is where it's confusing. So he keeps sending it to himself, but it's all written as if Boris has written them. But Jeffrey Epstein is writing them. Okay. So it's like, imagine I'm trying to send an email to you. I'm going to write it as if I'm you, but I haven't sent it to you to send yet. So I'm just like drafting it in my emails and then sending it to myself so I have an updated copy.
Yeah.
Right. One reads, I've decided to resign my position effective immediately with BG3, which is their private office.
So basically all that to say, Epstein has that type of control over Boris, right? Like he can make Boris send whatever the hell he wants to send.
And all that's to say is, unless, like in my opinion, I know nothing about Bill Gates. So if I try to blackmail him, it won't work. Not that this worked, but it won't work because none of the information I have on him is true because I don't know him. Blackmail only works when the information is slightly relevant. Maybe it's twisted and exaggerated, or it's like, that's not what really happened, but the optics already look bad. But like, you can't do it pulling something out of your ass.
Yeah.
So he says, I've decided to resign my position effective immediately with BG3 and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I have not come to this decision quickly or without a great deal of thought. During the past few weeks, I've been caught up in a severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. So this is condensed, but quote, in my role as his right hand, I had been asked on multiple occasions and in hindsight wrongly acquiesced into participating in things that have ranged from the morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound and had been repeatedly asked to do other things that get near or potentially over the line into the illegal. The things listed in the email are, he helped Bill Gates get drugs, it sounds like STD meds, he helped facilitate his affairs with married women, and being asked to provide Adderall for Bill Gates' bridge tournaments. Which is like the nerdiest thing ever, okay? But Boris states, these emails were not written on my behalf.
What's bridge? I'm sorry.
Bridge is like an old card game. It's like a strategy game with 4 players. It's like a card thing.
Oh, so it's not a sport.
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought it was a sport. Okay.
It's like if someone were to ask you to get Adderall for like a chess tournament.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Boris states, these emails were not written on my behalf or my request. Epstein inserted himself as a mediator and then used lies to pursue his own agenda. But I guess netizens are wondering, even if it wasn't done with Boris's consent, which even that is up for debate to some netizens, but even if it was done without his consent, would Epstein just make things up out of thin air? And would Bill Gates even care if he did? Gates and his team believe that this is evidence that, quote, this is another example of Epstein's repeated attempts to claim a role in Gates's orbit. Also, we do believe that Boris left and received funding from Bill Gates because he did email and copy Epstein on an email to confirm that he was receiving a wire transfer. The email reads, I see wire transfer for $5 million in advance. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to say dollars because there's no dollar sign in the email, so don't sue me. But it says like, I see wire transfer for 5M advance. I'm assuming it's dollars. It could be something else. I'm scared. Just started showing processing. Thank you in all caps. So like, I don't know.
Thank you to Bill Gates?
No, thank you to, he copied like a different person and then he copied Epstein.
Wow.
Yeah, and side note, there is a video of the bridge player, the Russian bridge player, talking about Bill Gates during a bridge conference. So she's the one that had an affair with Bill Gates. She was in her early 20s when she met Bill Gates. There's a picture of them together. She looks really young. And like early 20s, yeah, you look young, but she looks like really young for her age too. That's not me saying that I doubt her age. I'm not doubting that she was an adult at the time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying she just looks young. That was an observation that I had. Maybe it's jealousy, you call it whatever, right? But she quotes a very famous actress, Mae West, and she says, good sex is like good bridge. If you don't have a good partner, you better have a good hand.
Bridge like sex. If you don't have a good partner, you better have a good hand.
And she shows a picture of her and Bill Gates, and she says that she had always had plans to meet Bill Gates. Nobody believed her. And to give you some context, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are really big bridge players. Like, they've invested a lot of money into bridge tournaments. They go to bridge tournaments in like Washington, D.C. That's how they met. They will fund bridge tournaments for schools, local schools. So they love bridge. They've always been very vocal, avid bridge players, which is why some netizens feel like she could be a Russian honeypot, Russian being like the Russian government sends people to go and have romantic relations with high-profile people in other countries to get information for the opposing country, because that would be the perfect way. Or maybe I watch too many K-dramas, I don't know. But also she was pictured with a Russian spy. Anyway, but she says, quote...
What do you mean she was pictured?
I'm going to get into it. There's a whole Russian thing in a second. Okay. But she says, I played against him at the same table at the National Bridge Tournament in Washington, D.C. I didn't beat him, but I tried to kick him in the leg.
Last year, I played against him at the same table at the National Bridge Tournament in Washington, D.C. I didn't beat him, but I tried to kick him with my leg.
And now the top comment on that video now reads, Bill heard good sex is like good bridge and just went for it. Or quote, Bill told her it's only micro when it's soft, babe. So Bill Gates has apparently apologized and stated to his Gates Foundation staff, quote, I did nothing illicit. I saw nothing illicit. He alleges that the pictures that were released in the files with women whose faces were redacted, that was after meetings with Epstein. Epstein's assistants wanted to take pictures with him. So he would take pictures with them because they're like, oh my gosh, Bill Gates, I'm such a huge fan of Microsoft. I don't know what you would say, right? And quote, "It was such a huge mistake to spend time with Epstein. I apologize to other people who were drawn into this because of the mistakes that I made. I never stayed overnight."
In retrospect, I was foolish to spend any time with him. I thought it would help me with global health philanthropy. In fact, it failed to do that, and just a huge mistake.
He states that he never visited the island, though he did fly on a private jet with him and met with him in Germany, France, New York, and Washington. But to his defense, I never stayed overnight, I guess. As for why he met up with Epstein in 2011 after his crimes were already pretty public, Bill Gates states that he did not properly check Epstein's background because, you know, he sees all these high-profile people around Epstein, so he just assumes he's a high-profile person. The way that these people scare me, I went through a rabbit hole. Okay, the whole Bill Gates rabbit hole happened. And then I started just like buying books on some of these other people because I'm like, they scare me. We should at least know. Like when Oracle... I bought a few books on Larry Ellison because I'm like, Oracle's taking over TikTok. You get the whole vibe. And the Paramount. Anyway, these people will study their enemies to every core of their being, every cell of their body, just to dismantle them. And these are not big enemies. It's not like Microsoft going after big companies. You're talking about the little fish of the sea because that's just how these people tend to operate. If you're small, up and coming, they will dismantle you for game itself. And you're telling me you never Googled Epstein? He says knowing what I know now, you know, makes it 100 times worse in terms of not only his crimes in the past, but now it's clear there was ongoing bad behavior. He says about Melinda Gates, to give her credit, she has always kind of been skeptical about the Epstein thing, which, like, yes, she has been, vocally so.
It's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards.
But also some people think it's kind of like, well, you'll kind of see it with the Clintons later, where a lot of men are using their wife, propping up their wives now, or ex-wife now, but it still benefits them. You know, because it is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Melinda can continue the legacy. Same with Hillary Clinton. You know, Bill Gates is like, you guys shouldn't even be talking to my wife. She's never even interacted with Epstein. But it still is going to be beneficial for Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an annoying feeling probably for women. Not those women specifically, but women. And though ultimately he admits to no wrongdoing, there's just continuous building suspicion against Bill Gates. Then, you know, sometimes the people are very strange. Not as strange as anyone in the emails, but we spend our time doing very odd things, like waiting in line for things just to hope we like it, like a protein bar. There's this protein bar. It comes in like a gold wrapper. We tried it. I ordered a bunch. Okay, I ordered 3 bars in New York. Do you remember?
I'm confused. What are we talking about?
The little protein bars in the pantry, they're gold foil. And I was like, you should eat the protein bar.
Yeah, I did eat it.
How did you like it?
It just tastes like those like really healthy protein bars.
So this was a big hyped protein bar, David's Protein Bar.
Yes.
They launched in 2024, and when they launched, there were 40,000 customers on the wait list. The first week, the protein
40,000 customers on the wait list?
A wait list for a protein bar.
For why?
The first week, $1 million in sales. Because the protein bar is 150 calories, and it has 28 grams of protein. Nearly unheard of. This is insane. To get that much protein with that little calories, you can already imagine the type of crowd that you're getting workout obsessed. You're getting Pilates moms. Like you're getting all this like crowd foaming at the mouth to pay for really expensive protein bars. People posted on Reddit saying, if it's too good to be true, it's because it is. None of my farts are safe now. Like there were a lot of joking comments of like, it's so dense. There's no way. Like it just tastes creamy. How is it creamy? Some people are saying that they were diarrheaing. But even with all of that, David Protein Bars is valued at $725 million within a year of launching. And now it's become a Mean Girls meme, Regina George. So in the movie Mean Girls, Regina George is the mean girl. And the main character, Katie, she gives her these protein bars. And she's like, oh, these protein bars help you lose weight. So she only eats these protein bars. But then turns out they're basically like...
extra calories.
Right. And so... there was a consumer lab testing done on the protein bar, and instead of 150 calories, each bar was allegedly 229 calories. And you have to understand, many of the people who consume David's protein bars are tracking their macros. They track their calorie count. And instead of the 2 grams advertised on the label of fat, One bar showed in testing that instead of 2 grams, there was 9.7 grams of fat in one singular bar, and only about 23.6 grams of protein rather than 28 grams of protein, which leads to a class action calorie lawsuit being filed against David Protein. It's just been damning across the board. Usually the FDA will allow some leeway, so the nutrition labels, there's no way that it's exact, and they give about a 20% leeway. You can be 20% wrong. But most food labels, they stay within like a good lower percentage. But David protein bars, some of them were tested at 271 calories after being advertised as having 150 calories. However, I will note, this is huge, David Protein is fighting this. They're reportedly planning to countersue, and they state that the lab tests are simply wrong. And it's because they use a very special ingredient, EPG, and it's non-digestible. So it actually cannot be metabolized by the body. So the way that calories are tested, the way that they're saying the other people have been testing it, they're looking for energy output. Whereas there's some energy in there that is not going to be metabolized by the human body. If you're not metabolizing the calories, you can't count that as the calories, right? But that, weirdly, is not the biggest scandal to hit David's protein bars recently. The biggest scandal is Peter Attia, the chief science officer for David Protein Bars, is in the files. Peter Attia has always been occasionally controversial in the longevity space. He was on the quest of trying to... The doctor.
The famous...
Yeah.
What?
Peter Attia.
Okay. Wow.
He was on the quest of figuring out, why are Americans so fat? Those are the major headlines involving Peter Attia for the longest time. Those are the words they use. And I don't know, maybe because we're all depressed eating because nobody's being held accountable or really investigated for even being in the Epstein files. And maybe we're not fat. Maybe we're just not invisible to the naked eye, okay? But he has a small bespoke clinic of high-paying clients. You can't even get in unless you're someone with deep, deep pockets like Hugh Jackman.
Is he the actor?
Yeah.
The X-Men?
And tech founders. And I'm not saying Hugh Jackman knows about any of this. Like, these emails are between Peter Attia and Epstein. But he's the longevity guy for the rich. Go get a $3,000 elective MRI scan. Go spend X amount of money on this and that and this and that and take time off of work to exercise. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but that's where much of the controversy at least is from the beginning. Peter Attia wants to say, if you're not even going to invest in your health, what are you going to invest in? Like, he's that type of guy. So what the hell are you doing with Epstein? June 2015, Peter Attia sends Epstein in an email. The subject line is, got a fresh shipment. The picture that he includes in the email is metformin bottles.
Metformin?
Mm-hmm.
What's metformin again?
I think it's like the anti-diabetic prescription drug that people would take for longevity. It's like one of the longevity ones, along with like the elective GLP ones that everyone who wants to be fucking immortal takes these days. And I'm like, why do you want to live forever? The world is ending. This is crazy. We're just trying to live to tomorrow, and you guys want to live until you're 2,000 years old? Epstein responds, me too. And he sends a photo of a woman that is redacted. Peter responds, please tell me you found that picture online. Bastard, ... Epstein responds, afraid not. Peter, you know the biggest problem with becoming friends with you? The life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul, ...
That's crazy, man.
Peter Attia also sends Epstein's assistant an email. I go into JE withdrawal when I don't see him. Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal. Okay, Peter Attia is in the boat with like Elon Musk, where it's like they're so desperate to be on Epstein's island. He also emails Epstein, pussy is indeed low carb, still awaiting results on gluten content though, which netizens are disgusted, commenting at him, you also have a daughter. And also, Peter Attia is a physician. He didn't go through residency because he dropped out to be like a longevity doctor, but so I don't know if he can actually practice in hospitals. That was like another controversy of his. Like, he's not like a real doctor. Like, why would you want him as your doctor if he can't operate on you or like help you in most major hospitals you go to? Anyway, for him to associate with Epstein after 2008 and then to talk about women's body parts like that while being a physician, while having a daughter, while being morally bankrupt, in my opinion, feels personally past the point of just being a bit alarming. Peter Attia has since posted a statement once these emails have gotten viral that reads, the following email is what I sent to my team last night. I sent a similar version to my patients also. And it's like this long little, my fault, okay? But not really my fault. He expresses that he let everyone down, but also he was not involved in any criminal activity, that he was never on the plane, island, or present at any sex party. But he does admit to being at Jeffrey Epstein's New York City home on 7 to 8 different occasions, and he did email Epstein that he would like to visit the island. Quote, I need to visit sometime. So Peter, I don't know if it's the fact that you didn't go to the island out of your own moral judgment, but rather you didn't get the invite. He also states that he never went to Zorro Ranch, which is the massive New Mexico compound that Epstein had. But again, he had planned a visit to the New Mexico ranch, but Epstein canceled on him. He also weirdly writes, I met Epstein in 2014, a prominent female healthcare leader while I was raising funds for scientific research introduced us. It's giving a little, it's always a woman's fault. Who cares who introduced you? He says, I'm not asking for a pass from you. I'm not asking anyone to ignore the emails or pretend they aren't ugly. They simply are. The man I am today, roughly 10 years later, would not write them and would not associate with Epstein at all. Whatever growth I've had over the past decade does not erase the emails I wrote then. I do want to note when he wrote those emails, he was like 42 years old. So it's not like he was like a 12-year-old boy. He was 42.
Yeah.
Side note, there is a running theory backed by an email in the Epstein files where Peter Attia is emailing Epstein to confirm a meeting with him in New York City. And his wife is home in San Diego. And their infant son just suffered from cardiac arrest. So Peter Attia is in New York City.
Oh my God.
And he wrote about this in his book.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
He's in New York City working on business. His wife and his son are back home in San Diego, and his infant son suffers from cardiac arrest. And his wife is, I believe, thankfully a nurse and was able to like take him to the hospital, perform CPR. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
And she's begging him to come home. He said that he writes in his book that he, quote, I stayed in New York, busy with my, quote, important work. Redacted son cardiac arrest happened on a Tuesday, but I did not come home to San Diego until Friday of the following week, 10 days later. I mean, this is all like in the public eye. So people were able to find the exact dates that they think the cardiac arrest happened because, you know, it's a big life event. They've been talking about it before.
Yeah.
They cross-reference with the emails. And while he's in New York, he's emailing Epstein to meet with Epstein while his son is under cardiac arrest.
That's crazy.
Also, in his overly long, rather full of shit and carbs statement, he's got a thing with carbs anyway, he says that he didn't know Epstein was a bad person. He never Googled him, I guess. But in 2018, the Miami Herald came out with an expose on Epstein. And that's when Peter Attia, he says, was repulsed. He said, I was disgusted. Insert dramatic word that he probably doesn't ever mean. That's what Peter says. But there are emails where 4 days after the Miami Herald investigation is published, Peter Attia emails Epstein in a thread titled, Are you in Florida? And he asks, you know, what is the fallout from the recent story? Epstein responds, same as usual, just tougher. Legally, any change? Zero. Peter Attia appears to have stepped down from David Protein Bars, AG1, and 8 Sleep, where he was all on like a he was also like a CBS consulting correspondent, along with, he was like the newest round of announcements, along with Andrew Huberman, and yeah.
On what? CBS? What?
Yeah, as like a correspondent doctor.
Oh, okay.
And many netizens wish upon Peter Attia strong, deep, everlasting emotional pain. And I think the longevity is melting his brain. Now, other key resignations include Brad Karp, chairman of Paul Weiss Law Firm, which this is like a huge, big law firm. He resigned from his chairmanship after 18 years. And people, like a lot of people were making a big deal about it because it's like, oh, finally justice, right? He still remains at the firm as a partner. He's making a shit ton of money. And also, apparently, he had been planning on stepping down his chair even before all of this because he suffered from a heart attack last January. So this isn't even something that he's having to do for justice.
What did he do?
I believe he was at one point representing Leon Black. Remember the head of Apollo, the hedge fund, that Epstein was like, if I were you, I'd give me $40 million. Remember? But Brad Karp has also been seen in the files emailing Epstein, not about Leon Black, but, quote, Jeffrey, I can't thank you enough for including me in an evening I'll never forget. It was truly, quote, once in a lifetime in every way. Though I hope to be invited again, you are an extraordinary host and you're home, ... exclamation. Thanks again. See you soon, Brad. Epstein responds, you are always welcome. There are many, many nights of unique talents. You will be invited often. Then Brad Karp responds, you are amazing, thank you. I don't know, for all the alarming reasons. He wanted perhaps to use nepotism this is a weird one, to get his son in a Woody Allen movie. So Epstein has always been very good friends with the disgraced filmmaker Woody Allen. And he says, Jeffrey, can I raise a personal issue with you concerning my son, David? As I mentioned, he graduated Cornell last weekend and is hoping to work on interesting projects and make films this year, and then hopefully attend NYU in the fall of 2017. David is working on a project for a Peruvian company in Lima from mid-June through mid-July. He would love to work in any capacity with Woody on his upcoming film project if that's a possibility. He certainly doesn't need to be paid, and he's a really good, talented kid. Thanks so much, Brad. Then you have Faith Cates, who owns a modeling agency that represents a ton of incredible models. Obviously, she's not a reflection of those models or the talent. And then she also represents like Diplo. I don't know. She's since retired. But the emails have been released. And of course, she writes to Epstein. I know you don't believe this, but I really do love you like a brother. Is your brother a trafficker too? Perhaps. And I feel so sad this is happening. Lay very low and quiet. You should know who your friends are. The rest are a piece of crap.
The fuck? Like, when did she send this?
After his 2008 conviction. But these are all just, there's a bunch of other resignations, but these are all just resignations. These are rich and typically old people taking early retirement. And those are just the business people. That's not taking into account all the failed parts that made Epstein who he is. A tiny group of people are resigning, but what about everything else, like the system itself? It's revealed through the files that back in 2015, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, opened an investigation into Epstein and at least a dozen other individuals. They were investigating money laundering, drug trafficking, funding and distributing ecstasy, ketamine, and methamphetamines. So the DEA is investigating additionally for Epstein's proclivity to procure Eastern European sex workers for high-profile clients. That was another thing that was open in this investigation, which begs the question, just how much did the feds know about Epstein's crimes for how long? Because documentation of his crimes go back in the Justice Department to the 90s. Not even like, to 2002, before the 2008, to the 90s. And if the feds knew about him, is it really believable that none of these high-powered people knew anything about him? I feel like I would be more nervous for a background check to be a right-hand person to someone like Bill Gates than a government background check.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like you'd be 20 times more thorough. Though I will say the DEA investigation went through a secret unit, and it's the same unit that apparently had a lead role in capturing El Chapo. So this is like, I guess, a highly focused unit, and it doesn't seem like the feds at the DEA thought that this was just a giggle-gaggle, oh look, this is a rich guy doing ecstasy with his rich friends type of situation. They even ran a target profile on Epstein, which they will go and scrub a person up and down. They'll get all their financial transactions and comb through them for any suspicious activity. They're looking into you, and his profile states, illegitimate wire transfers which are tied to illicit drug and or prostitution activities occurring in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New York City. The memo notes that from 2013 to 2015, banks alerted the feds for about at least $5.7 million in potentially suspicious transactions regarding Epstein's accounts. Then apparently in a separate investigation by the same secret unit of the DEA, they were looking into human trafficking and drug trafficking tied to Russian organized crime, and Epstein's name comes up repeatedly in that case as well. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon states, to this day, there has not been a comprehensive follow the money investigation of Epstein's network performed by any federal law enforcement agency. I find that totally inexcusable. So now there's all these whispers about, is Epstein connected to Israel? Is Epstein connected to Russia? Because Bill Gates and Russian girls, and there's a lot of Eastern European women that were victimized by Epstein. And the Epstein and Russia ties have only gotten stronger with the newly released files, because for years, Epstein was trying to get a meeting with Putin himself. Remember, he was cozying up to the Prime Minister of Norway, saying things like, I know you're going to meet Putin on the 20th. He is desperate to engage Western investment in his country. I have his solution. Another email is a bit more enthusiastic and casual. Would love to meet with Putin! Exclamation. But again, there's no evidence that the meeting of Epstein's dreams ever came to fruition. Putin's name appears more than 1,000 times in the released files, but most of that are references from the news clippings and Epstein talking about Putin rather than any sort of meaningful correspondence. There is an individual, though, that has definitely raised a lot of alarms in the files. Belyakov. Belyakov was the Russian Deputy Economic Development Minister, and he becomes fast friends with Epstein. He would send him cryptic-sounding emails that now, in my opinion, sound a bit ominous, but our meeting was really interesting for me. I do not know many people like you who can open new horizons and prospects. He also thanks Epstein at one point for a gift. But the most alarming email is Epstein emails Belyakov July 24th, 2015. I need a favor. There is a Russian girl from Moscow. She is attempting to blackmail a group of powerful businessmen in New York. It's bad for business for everyone involved. Suggestions? Now, there is a situation where Leon Black, Apollo hedge fund manager, he was blackmailed by a woman, a Russian woman that he had an affair with, but he says businessmen. So this could mean multiple. Maybe it's just referencing Leon Black. We don't really know. Epstein says that this woman was claiming ridiculous, nonsensical things that have never happened before in the history of this planet, such as, quote, powerful men taking advantage of women like her. Belyakov, according to the files, offers to meet up with someone who knows said woman, and he alleges that she's in the sex and escort business. And in another email drafted, presumably for the Moscow woman, Epstein writes, I've decided to help you. However, I am very disappointed by the fact that you felt it necessary to threaten me. I think you should apologize to me. You and I have been together a long time, so I know you must have been quite upset to do such an outrageous thing. You should also know that I felt it necessary to contact some friends at FSB, which, okay, kind of, but not really, but just for simplicity's sake, is like the Russian FBI. They explained it to me that in no uncertain terms, that especially right now when Russia is trying to bring in outside investors, as you know, the economy there sucks and desperately needs investment, that a person that would attempt to blackmail a businessman would immediately become the enemy of the people and would be dealt with extremely harshly. So I expect never ever to hear a threat from you again. That being said, I think $50,000 per month for the next 2 years, which would equate to $1.2 million. And I will help you get a visa. Is very generous. If you decide to stay in Moscow, that's also okay with me.
Wow.
That's why I think it's a different businessman from Leon Black, because Leon Black had this whole, it was a big fiasco and he ended up paying quite a bit. And then countersued her attorneys. She was at one point, he sued her and her attorneys, Doug Wigder's firm that represented Cassie Ventura in the Diddy case. I mean, it still represents, but like, you know. Mm-hmm. So a lot of Russian connections in the files. And another odd one is that when Trump takes office for the first time back in 2016, Belyakov sends Epstein a message, congrats on your president. Epstein responds with one word, fun. And back to the bridge, right? So unrelated to Trump, but the Russia connection. Bill Gates was having an affair with a Russian bridge player. She was photographed with Anna Chapman, who has been deported from the United States on charges of espionage. Basically, people believe that Anna Chapman is a Russian spy. That has led a lot of netizens to believe that perhaps Bill Gates' mistress was also a honeypot sent by Russia, but that's just a personal thought netizens are having. It's just been weird.
Why is it called honeypot?
It's like a honey trap. Now, I mean, at this point, this is where I'm going to leave you because there's going to be a third part to all of this where we're going to go through the depositions and what's been going on with Trump in the files. There's a lot there. Also, they want to subpoena. They haven't subpoenaed, but they do want to interview so far as of the day that I'm filming this. The House committee has stated that they want to interview one of the prison guards, a transcribed interview, a prison guard when Epstein died because it just released in the files that she was Googling him before he was found dead. There's so much happening in part 3, but I'm going to leave you with a few things to expect because Republican Representative Jamie Raskin, along with a few others, Ro Khanna and others, were able to view the unredacted files. So members of the House Oversight Committee are allowed to come in and go through the files, unredacted files, but apparently you can only have 4 members and there's only 4 computers and you can only be there from 9 to 5 to view the unredacted files on those computers only. That itself has been heavily criticized. Representative Jamie Raskin told Axios that he was able to go see the unredacted Epstein files, and Trump's name was in there, quote, more than 1 million times. It's been reported that Trump told a police chief at the time looking into Epstein in the early 2000s and allegedly told them, quote, everyone has known that he's been doing this, and suggested that the police chief should also look into Maxwell as well because, quote, she's evil and to focus on her. That's what a lot of people are alleging, and there's more in the files about that has been redacted as the allegation. And there were like 16 pages that were not released, that were later found and then re-uploaded that have to do with Trump. And there's just a lot of allegations and just a lot of things that are going on. So with that being said, I will see you in part 3 very, very soon. Stay safe.